Abandoned and overweight, this girl's life changed when she discovered the farmer's amazing secret. Molly Lark sat on the creaky wooden steps of her mama's trailer, her heart heavy with the weight of the world. At 16, she felt the sting of poverty and loneliness deep in her bones. The taunts at school echoed mercilessly in her head. Fatty pig. They burned more than the biting phrases thrown her way. Every insult felt like a cut, a reminder of how alone she truly was. Her mother, beautiful and hardworking, struggled to make ends meet, juggling 2 and sometimes 3 jobs just to keep their heads above water. When her mom lost her job at the diner, it was as if the ground beneath them collapsed. Their meager meals shrank to bare essentials, with the gnawing hunger at night sometimes worse than the bullying at school. Molly's reflection in the mirror became a source of pain. The depression wrapped around her like a thick fog, casting shadows over her dreams of college and a better life. Was there a way out of the dark? Just when life felt like an endless string of disappointments, Mr. Thompson moved in next door. He was a wiry figure, known as the gruff farmer who rarely engaged with the townsfolk. To most, he was a mystery. To Molly, an unexpected lifeline. One bright afternoon, he spotted her sitting alone, and against every grain of her expectation, he approached. "Molly," he said, his voice rough yet warm, "how would you like to help me on the farm? I could use an extra hand." His proposal stunned her. Was this rough man actually inviting her into his world? Hesitantly, she agreed. Each morning was filled with the earthy sense of soil and sun, with the wind softly whispering through the tall stalks in his gardens. As she dug her hands into the dirt, the panic and self-loathing started to fade. Molly learned to plant seeds and care for them, just like nurturing her own spirit. Each row she tended was like a step toward healing. But fate had a cruel trick up its sleeve. One day, Mr. Thompson collapsed right there among the cornstalks. The doctor's grim face sent a wave of fear crashing through Molly's heart. Cancer. He wouldn't get better. The weight of the farm now rested on her inexperienced shoulders, threatening not only her sanctuary but also the quiet dreams of the entire town. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Molly's mind raced with doubt. Who was she to save this farm? But the whispers of the townsfolk seeped into her. Rumors stirred, fear of doom loomed high. That night, beneath the stars and the crickets' chirps, she remembered Mr. Thompson's words about the town's hidden treasure, something that could save them all if she dared. Awash with determination, she felt a fire in her chest. Could she rally the town? Or would she crumble under the crushing weight of her past insecurities? Standing at the garden's edge with the fiery sunset behind her, the stakes were higher than ever. Molly took a deep breath, ready to confront her fears and the path ahead, her heart pounding like the beating wings of hope. What choice would she make? Molly stood at the edge of the farm, the sunset bathing her in golden light, igniting something deep inside her. The thought of letting the farm go, of abandoning everything Mr. Thompson had worked for, clenched her stomach. She needed to act. Determined to unearth the hidden treasure he spoke of, she turned toward the crooked barn, its weathered wood creaking in the evening breeze. With every step, her heart raced, fueled by a blend of fear and audacity. What if the treasure was just a fantasy, a desperate hope clinging to the corners of Mr. Thompson's mind? But she couldn't ignore the sensation bubbling inside her. Maybe this was the chance she had been waiting for. As she pushed through the barn doors, the smell of hay and aged timber enveloped her. Dust floated in the beams of the setting sun, casting an ethereal glow. She scanned the room, old farming tools cluttered around her, shadows flickering in the corners. What could possibly hold the promise of salvation? Molly remembered Mr. Thompson often spoke of the land's history. The proud farmer had mentioned something about buried artifacts, treasures from a time when the town thrived. Maybe there was more than just crops that could be salvaged. Kneeling in the dirt, her fingers sifted through the ground below a loose board. Straining her ears, she listened to the echoes of the past, urging her on. Suddenly, her fingers grazed something solid, cold and metallic. Her breath caught. With a few firm tugs, she unearthed a weathered chest, a lock rusted over time. Heart pounding, she envisioned the possibilities. Could this be the answer? A fortune that could save the farm and restore hope? But doubt clawed at her. What if it was empty? She spotted a crowbar nearby and used it with shaky hands, prying the lock loose. The chest creaked open, revealing dust and cobwebs. Gazing inside, her heart sank slightly. It was hardly full of gold or jewels. Instead, she found a collection of faded letters, old photographs, and a dusty ledger filled with numbers and names. At first, it felt like a cruel joke, but then she started sifting through the letters, feeling the weight of history seep into her. With every note, she uncovered stories of resilience, families who had worked the land, each one tied into the fabric of the town. One particular letter caught her eye, dated back to the farm's founding. It spoke of the town's struggles and triumphs, about how they rallied together in difficult times. "Unity is strength," it read. "When we lift each other up, we rise together." As she read, tears brimmed in her eyes. This treasure wasn't gold, it was something far more valuable. It was a reminder of community, camaraderie, and the shared spirit of the people around her. She could bring them all together, just like the letter had said. Determined, Molly stood, clutching the letter tightly. It was time to share what she'd found. The town needed hope more than it needed gold. She could rally everyone, show them that together they could rebuild not just the farm, but their community. With renewed strength, she set out for the town square, heart racing not with fear, but with excitement. Would they remember the strength of unity? Could she inspire them? As she stepped into the fading light, a realization struck her. She was no longer the girl being pushed around at school. She was becoming a part of something bigger than herself. She was ready to rise up for the farm and the town, but would they rise with her? Gathering her courage, she pushed through the town's front doors and took a deep breath. This was just the beginning, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something even bigger was waiting for her just around the corner. What was the next step to turn hope into reality? As Molly stepped into the town square, the air felt charged with anticipation. She glanced around, seeing familiar faces among the small gathering of townsfolk, their expressions a mixture of weariness and curiosity. This was her moment. She could feel the letter still crumpled in her fist, a tangible connection to the past that now pulsed with urgency. "Hey, everyone!" she called out, her voice trembling slightly. Heads turned toward her, eyebrows raised in question. The faint light of the fading sunset painted everything in shades of peach and violet, but the weight of their stares hovered, amplifying her doubts. "I found something important in the barn." A murmur spread through the crowd, thinly veiling a rising excitement. Molly took a deep breath, her heart drumming in her ears. "You all remember Mr. Thompson? He believed in this farm and in the families who worked it. That's what this is about." She unfurled the letter, the edges crinkling under her fingers. "What did you find?" An older man, Mr. Adams, stepped forward, his gaze keen and searching. The warmth of his presence comforted her. "It's not gold or silver," she confessed, glancing at the letter. "It's a collection of letters and photos, stories that remind us of who we are and what we can be together." Her voice steadied, fueled by the memories of Mr. Thompson's hopeful dreams. "This town was built on unity and strength. We can rebuild that spirit." A light breeze stirred, rustling the leaves above and deepening the silence. Molly watched as the townsfolk exchanged glances, curiosity flickering like embers in a fire just waiting for a breath of air. "When we lift each other up," she continued, quoting the letter, "we rise together. It's time we come together like we used to." She could see Mrs. Jenkins, the bakery owner, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. Molly's heart swelled. If Mrs. Jenkins believed, maybe others would too. "We can organize a community event, perhaps a harvest festival, to celebrate our roots and raise support for the farm." "What if they don't show?" a voice piped up from the back. It was Jamie, a classmate known for his skepticism. "People don't seem to care anymore." Molly felt her heart sink for a brief second. But then she remembered the letters, the hope written in ink on time-worn paper. That's exactly why we need to do this, she replied, her voice rising to drown out fear. We need to rekindle that spirit. This is our chance to remind them what we can achieve together. The crowd began to nod, murmurs of agreement starting to build. A spark of courage ignited within her. Let us meet tomorrow to plan. Let us make something that shows everyone just how strong we still are. The anticipation in the air grew thick. Faces around her transformed, hope bubbling over like a freshly opened can of soda. She felt the weight of possibility press around her, and for the first time in her life, Molly saw herself not just as a girl with big dreams but as a leader. As the sun finally dipped below the horizon, casting twilight shadows, she could hear their voices rising. Names were tossed around, planning committees and organizing volunteering, all enveloping her in a warm cocoon of shared enthusiasm. Yet, amidst her excitement, a feeling nagged at the back of her mind. What if they didn't gather enough support? What if she couldn't pull it all off? Beneath the thrill, doubt lingered, whispering tantalizing fears in her ears, but as she looked into the faces filled with renewed hope, she knew she had to push those thoughts aside. They were a community, a collection of stories entwined with hers. Tomorrow would be the beginning of everything. Would they truly embrace this chance for revival? Molly stepped out of the square and into the approaching night, leaving the sounds of laughter and chatter behind her. But just ahead, she sensed a deeper challenge brewing in the shadows, something that could either help them soar or bring everything crashing down. What lay ahead in the journey of community and hope? Molly awoke to the sound of birds chirping outside her window, a brisk morning light creeping in through the curtains. It felt like a fresh start, but her heart still carried the weight of uncertainty. She had rallied the townsfolk last night, but now the challenge lay before her, stretching out like the long path towards the farm that felt more daunting than ever. Her fingers brushed over the collection of letters spread across her kitchen table, memories pooling in the clippings and notes. Each letter was a pulse, a heartbeat of the town, thick with past dreams and hopes. If they truly wanted to revive that spirit, they needed to come together, but would they? The thought occupied her mind as she poured herself a cup of coffee, searching for solace in the familiar morning ritual. Just then, her phone vibrated on the table, shaking her from her thoughts. A message from Mrs. Jenkins popped up, asking about the meeting time and confirming her participation. Molly's heart lifted slightly. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. With renewed energy, she quickly got dressed and raced to the town square, thoughts racing as she practiced what she would say. She arrived early, the sun rising higher and illuminating the remnants of the old fountain in the center as a gentle breeze swirled around her. Meeting outside, surrounded by the very ground that held their history, felt right. One by one, townsfolk started arriving. Mr. Adams was the first, his cane tapping rhythmically against the pavement. "Morning, Molly," he said warmly. "Looking forward to seeing what you have in mind." "Thanks for coming, Mr. Adams," she replied, a smile breaking across her face. As more and more came, a sense of camaraderie blossomed in the gathering crowd. They exchanged thoughts, rekindling relationships they had long abandoned. Laughter mingled with plans for the festival dancing in the air. After a loud outbreak of enthusiasm from a group of teens, Molly stepped to the forefront, raising her hands. "All right, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. To bring the spirit of our community alive, I want us all to contribute how we can. Let us brainstorm." Fueled with passion, she guided them through ideas, fun activities, contests, food booths, live music. Each suggestion sparked laughter, creativity flowing freely. Yet, in the back of her mind, there was a nagging worry. What if this was just a fleeting moment of excitement? But optimism painted the air, and as they concluded the meeting, Molly felt a rush of anticipation. She looked around at the smiling faces, some still skeptical but engaged. They were unstoppable together. This was just the beginning. The crowd dispersed, plans simmering, while Molly lingered, glancing at the letter she had stowed in her back pocket. "Now, I just wish we could reach more people," she murmured, a flicker of doubt dimming her excitement. What about those who still felt disconnected? Little did she know, someone had overheard her, someone whose presence brought an unexpected twist to the day ahead. As she turned to leave, a voice called from behind her, a lingering figure she hadn't seen before, with kind but cautious eyes. "I think I know how to help reach those people," they said, stepping forward, a hint of urgency in their voice. Molly felt her heart quicken. Who was this stranger? And what kind of help did they bring to the revival of the farm? As curiosity welled within her, so did the question, could this newcomer be the missing piece in her growing puzzle? Molly turned, her heart pounding as she took in the stranger's warm but determined expression. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to mask her surprise with a curious smile. The newcomers stepped closer, their outstretched hand introducing themselves. "I'm Ben. I just moved to town a few weeks ago." His voice carried a calm confidence, grounding her racing thoughts. "I overheard your conversation about reaching out further. I have a plan that could bring those disconnected folks back into the fold." Molly felt a spark of hope ignite within her. "Really? How?" Ben shifted slightly, glancing at the remaining townsfolk dispersing. "I've been involved in several community projects before. There are innovative ways to engage people who might not feel connected to the festivities you are planning. I can help with outreach and maybe even bring some fresh ideas from the places I've been." She studied him closely, sensing his sincerity. "What kind of ideas are we talking about?" Her mind raced with possibilities. "Well, I was thinking about utilizing social media more effectively. Maybe set up a local page, or even a series of live streams showcasing the festival preparations, so people can actively see what is happening and feel included. Also, word of mouth can go a long way inviting people directly instead of relying on passive announcements." Molly nodded, considering the approach. It was different, but perhaps it could bridge the gap. "That's a great start, but there are so many different people in our town. I worry about the ones who just won't care to join." Ben smiled encouragingly. "Then that's exactly why we need to reach out personally. We can have small gatherings in homes, giving everyone a chance to share their thoughts. It'll create a warmer atmosphere. Besides, I also know a few musicians we could invite to play for free." Excitement bubbled within her, a sensation like fresh spring air filling her lungs. This could work. It truly could. But then that nagging doubt crept back in. What if none of this brings in the right crowd? Even if just a few more people show up, that's something, right? Ben replied, his eyes bright with understanding. "Every connection we make is important. Maybe some folks just need a nudge to experience that sense of belonging again." While they talked, a small group of children raced past, laughter echoing as they played tag around the fountain. Molly watched them for a moment, her heart swelling. Each giggle felt like a reminder of the joy that brought everyone together. "You're right," she said finally, her voice firmer now. "Let's do it. I want to change things for this town, to rekindle the fond memories." Ben grinned, and it did something to her. His optimism was infectious. They could be a team, working towards something important. But before they could move forward, a shadow fell across them, and Mrs. Jenkins approached, her brow wrinkled with concern. "Molly, I've been thinking. What about the older folks? They might prefer a more traditional approach to gathering. We can't ignore them." Molly opened her mouth to respond, but the reality hit her like a splash of cold water. She had focused so much on the excitement of the younger generation that she had overlooked a vital part of the community. "Maybe blending both ideas might work," Molly said slowly, looking from Ben back to Mrs. Jenkins. "Let us not limit ourselves. We can create a festival that honors our past while inviting everyone into our future." Molly felt a renewed sense of purpose. But just as her spirit soared, the chilling thought returned: where would the funds for all these ideas come from? As if sensing her uncertainty, Ben leaned closer, his eyes alight with determination. "So, what do you want to do next?" Molly felt the weight of her role as a leader press upon her with renewed vigor. "Let us meet again tomorrow," she replied, the wheels of possibility turning in her mind. "We'll figure out our next steps together." With that, the questions hung heavily in the air: will they find the resources they need to revive their community spirit? And as darkness fell, would they discover the truths of their past that haunted their present? The following day came way too soon for Molly. She hardly slept, her mind racing with possibilities and worries. As she brewed her morning coffee, the familiar scents wafted through the air. Each sip of the warm liquid reminded her how much was at stake. Would they really be able to bring the town together? She met Ben at the small cafe on Main Street, the sun streaming through the windows, illuminating their determined faces. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, her enthusiasm bubbling up again. "I think blending the ideas is a great start, but we need more. We need to figure out how to pay for everything." Ben nodded, leaning back in his chair. "Definitely. There are sponsorships we can explore. Local businesses might be willing to help in exchange for advertisement. We could even put together a small fundraiser. Maybe a bake sale or a community dinner. People love homemade food." A flicker of hope sparked inside Molly. "That could work. And we can invite folks to share stories or showcase their talents. I bet we have so much hidden talent right here." Just then, Mrs. Jenkins joined them, her presence buoying Molly's spirits. "I'm so glad to see you both working together. Have you thought about involving the community center? They might have some budget for events, especially if we frame it as a way to strengthen community ties." Molly liked the sound of that. "Yes. The community center could be our hub." Ben jotted down some notes on a napkin, enthusiasm radiating from him. "Let us map out a list of who to approach for support. We'll need everyone's help to make this work." As they spoke, a sense of purpose enveloped Molly. The worry that had haunted her the previous night began to dissipate, replaced by the exhilarating feeling of collaboration. She could almost visualize the festival as they discussed different strategies, laughter and chatter filling the air. After hours of brainstorming, they had amassed a solid plan. Ben's ideas melded seamlessly with Molly's vision and Mrs. Jenkins' practical insights. Together they created a new energy, one that felt contagious. As they wrapped up, Molly knew doubt could easily creep back in, but she was determined to shut it out. "Molly!" A voice suddenly cut through the reverie. It was Jack, the local librarian, his brow knotted. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just heard some troubling news. There's a town meeting tonight. I think they're discussing cuts to community programs. If that goes through, it could affect everything we're planning." That familiar chill returned, washing over Molly as though ice water had been poured down her back. "Cuts? But we're trying to foster community, to bring people together." Her voice trailed off, panic clawing at her insides. Ben leaned in, his expression serious but calm. "Then we need to be at that meeting. We have to show them what this festival can do for everyone. This is our chance to gain their support before they make a bad decision." Molly took a deep breath, her mind racing again, but this time it was driven by determination. "You're right. We can't sit by and let them decide for us. We have a vision, and we can't lose it before it even begins." As they gathered their things, Molly felt her heart race not from fear, but from a new resolve. They were going to fight for their community, for the people who had been forgotten. Arriving at the town hall that evening, a wave of uncertainty washed over her as she saw the gathering crowd. But there was something igniting within her, a spark fueled by hope. What would they say to the townsfolk? Could they win them over? She had to believe they could. As the doors opened, Molly stepped inside, the air thick with anticipation. Would they rally together and spark a change? Or would they find themselves back at square one, the dream of connection slipping away? Molly paused just inside the town hall, her heart pounding in her chest. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet as she scanned the room. Rows of faces turned toward her, an unfamiliar mix of curiosity and concern. She felt small, yet the energy swirling around her was electric. This was a chance for something greater. Ben nudged her gently, breaking her out of her daze. "We can do this," he whispered, his voice steadying. "Let us show them we mean business." With a deep breath, she pushed forward into the hall, each step fueled by the overwhelming desire to make a difference. The room hummed with voices, the sounds of debates and complaints echoing against the walls. Town council members sat at a long table, their expressions stern, almost intimidating. Mrs. Jenkins spotted them and waved, her face lighting up. "Molly! Ben! Over here!" They joined her, heartened by the familiarity of her warmth. "Glad you made it," she said, her eyes glimmering with hope. I think we can really make a case for the community programs tonight. Molly nodded, feeling the weight of her responsibility settle on her shoulders. We need to advocate not just for the festival, but for all the connections it can foster. If they cut funding, we lose the community spirit we're trying to create. As the meeting began, the atmosphere shifted. Jack took to the floor first, his voice carrying a mix of urgency and fear. The cuts could dismantle what little we have. Our libraries, our centers, they're lifelines for many of us. He spoke passionately, and Molly felt the room lean in. It was a shared struggle, lives intertwined. Families depended on the community for support, for connection, for hope. When it was their turn, Ben stepped forward, exuding boldness. We're here to talk about how we can come together to strengthen our town. A festival is just a starting point. It's about showcasing what we can accomplish as a community. Molly gravitated toward the people as faces. Some nodded in agreement, while others remained skeptical. She took a breath, taking in their fears and hopes. Imagine a day where we all gather, forgetting our differences, sharing our stories and talents. A celebration of our town that could not only bring us together, but foster local businesses and create opportunities. A murmur rippled through the crowd. She could see a glimmer of interest. But then, a voice cut through, sharp and disapproving. And who's going to pay for all of that? I can't see how a bake sale will keep our programs running. It was one of the council members, arms crossed firmly. Tension built in the air. Molly's heart sank for a moment, but then it ignited with determination. We believe in this community, she said, locking eyes with the council member. And we will find a way. Together, we can mobilize funds, enlist sponsors, and if we mobilize our talents, we can make this happen. Ben stepped closer, echoing her sentiments. The local businesses want to support us, but they need to see that we're passionate. This is not just about a festival, it's about our future. Let us not cut ourselves off from the hope we can create. More heads nodded, murmurs growing louder. The spark of possibility flickered. Maybe they had the power to change minds. Molly could feel a wave of connection wash over the crowd. There was a collective heartbeat among them, a shared understanding. It was a long way from securing the funding, but she felt invigorated by their responses. As the council began discussing the proposals, caution mixed with optimism swirled in the air. They still had a long road ahead. Would they rally enough support to keep the community spirit alive? Or would they walk away, dreams dashed by bureaucracy? Molly gripped the edge of the podium, feeling the weight of choices in the air. She didn't have answers, but she knew they were fighting for far more than a festival, and she could hear the pulse of the town, louder and stronger. What would come next? Would their passion be enough to overcome the fears of the unknown? The truth was, they might just have to do the unthinkable to protect what they loved. The room hummed with tension, voices bouncing off the walls, echoing uncertainty. Despite the fear lingering in the air, Molly felt a surge of hope. She exchanged glances with Ben, who stood beside her, his eyes lit with conviction. This was a pivotal moment. They had sparked interest, now they needed to fan the flames. As the town council continued their deliberations, Mrs. Jenkins raised her hand and spoke up, her voice steady. We're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These community programs directly affect our families. People here need these connections. Her words resonated with Molly. Mrs. Jenkins was right, it wasn't just about funding. It was about life. It was about the enrichment that came from shared experiences of evening classes filled with laughter, toddlers gleefully running through the library, and neighborhoods filled with barbecues and block parties. Molly caught the eye of a young woman near the back of the hall. She looked tired, stress lines etched on her forehead, a symbol of the struggles many faced. Molly wondered how many on the council could truly grasp the weight of their decisions. When the council allowed for a brief open discussion, Molly seized the chance. We can create a committee to find creative funding solutions. Maybe local businesses could sponsor events, or we could set up crowdfunding campaigns online. It's possible. But a voice rang out again, this time from a council member known for his hardline views. A bake sale and a couple of sponsorships won't cut it. You have to show us a real plan. Molly's chest tightened. They were asking for something concrete. But how could she strip down the community's spirit and dreams into charts and projections? She needed to turn their passion into a vision that could be boxed in and sold as a plan. Then Ben spoke up again, his voice steady, cutting through the disconnection. Listen, we're here to represent everyone. Let us think about it this way, it's not just about money. When people feel connected, they're more likely to support each other. It goes beyond the festival. He paused, and Molly caught her breath, her heart racing. There was fire in his voice, and it fueled her courage. They had their doubts, but she wanted to shake them awake to the reality she saw, the one that pulsed with life, dreams, and connections. I also have an idea, she ventured, determination tinging her voice. What if we hosted community meetings to gather ideas? Let everyone voice what they need. We can brainstorm together, and not a single view will be left out. This is our chance to strengthen ties. The murmurs hit a crescendo, and Molly could see the flickers of hope igniting again. Perhaps they were beginning to see the vision she saw so clearly, yet the council remained divided. Some were leaning in, intrigued, while others still hovered in their skepticism. She couldn't let this moment slip away. Mrs. Jenkins stood up again. We are tired of being overlooked. If these cuts go through, we risk losing the heart of our town. We need investment in our community for a reason to keep us whole. For the first time in a long while, Molly caught a spark of unity in the hall. The tension lifted a little as more people chimed in. They shared personal stories, hopes, and nightmares tied to the community programs, but just when it felt like they were gaining momentum, a sudden loud noise interrupted them. A strong rumble from outside made the walls shake slightly. The council paused, as did the audience. Molly felt her heart flutter in anxiety. What could that mean? It was a reminder that the struggle for their community's future was far from over. The meeting, despite the bursts of enthusiasm, balanced on a razor's edge. Unsure of what waited for them beyond these walls, Molly felt a mix of trepidation and hope swirling within her. The stakes were rising, and the question loomed larger in the air: what awaited them outside, and would they be able to harness the strength they had gathered together for their fight ahead? The rumbling continued, shaking the floorboards beneath their feet. Whispers of confusion rippled through the crowd, and Molly's heart raced faster. She exchanged a concerned glance with Ben, whose brow furrowed in worry. What was that? A voice called from the back, breaking the tense silence. Molly took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. Was it just a passing truck? Or maybe something more serious? The council members remained visibly shaken, glancing at each other, their earlier confidence replaced by uncertainty. Then, a woman burst through the doors. Her cheeks were flushed, and she looked breathless. There's been a landslide on Main Street. A tree fell, blocking traffic. Gasps filled the room, and the atmosphere shifted from uneasy anticipation to outright dread. The safety of their community, something they had come to discuss, felt suddenly fragile, as if it might unravel at any moment. Molly could see the panic on some faces. Parents pulled their children close, and others huddled together, their expressions a mixture of fear and determination. Molly's instinct kicked in. This was where they could demonstrate strength, where they could show what it meant to be a community. A landslide? Ben echoed. We need to help. People might be trapped. The council members were now on their feet, shouting conflicting instructions at each other. It was chaotic, a flurry of concern and urgency. Molly's frame felt electric with a sudden idea. Ben! She shouted, stealing his attention. We can't just stand here. Let us set up a team to mobilize volunteers to clear the road. People need us. He nodded, adrenaline surging. Yes. We can gather people at the park. If we create a plan, we can help them get out. Mrs. Jenkins jumped at the opportunity to rally the crowd. Who's with us? Let us show what it means to stand together. People began to rise from their seats, excitement mingling with anxiety. Molly's heart thumped loudly, filled with a mix of fear and exhilaration. They were no longer just talking about community programs, they were ready to actively save their community. As they moved outside, the world beyond felt different, charged with purpose. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth, and the sun peeked cautiously through the clouds. The sounds of chaos were palpable, sirens wailed in the distance, and voices shouted directions as people gathered in small groups forming makeshift plans. Molly felt the warmth of her community around her, the camaraderie bubbling to the surface. We need to make sure everyone is safe first. Check on your neighbors, grab some tools, and meet back here. The energy was electric, and though uncertain, it was solid. Side by side, they would face whatever lay ahead. As Molly turned her head, surveying her friends and neighbors racing toward their homes to lend a hand, she couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. But in the back of her mind lingered a question: what would happen if they actually reached those trapped by the landslide? Who would they find? That uncertainty was like a weight on her chest, raw and unsettling. As chaos transformed into action, Molly felt a mixture of hope and dread. They were banding together, united by purpose, yet the unknown loomed heavily over their efforts. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Would this crisis propel them forward, or fracture their community in ways they hadn't imagined? The time for talk was over. Now they would find out just how deep those connections really ran. The lines between support and fear blurred, carrying them into the next unforeseen challenge. However, at the core of it all, one thing remained clear: they were ready to face whatever came next, together. Molly stood in the midst of the chaos, adrenaline coursing through her veins. As the townsfolk rallied around her, she felt a sense of belonging she had never known. For the first time, she wasn't just Molly Lark the fatty from school, she was an integral part of this community, a catalyst for change. "Let us go!" she shouted, her voice ringing out over the din. Her words sliced through the muddled fears, igniting a spark of determination in those gathered across the park. Ben was organizing groups. "Grab shovels, axes, any tools you can find. We need to clear that road." His voice was clear and commanding, a testament to the old soul buried beneath his youthful face. Molly felt a swell of pride. This was a leader she could stand with. They were a team, woven together by their shared sense of purpose. With every step she took toward Main Street, memories flooded Molly's mind. The farm, the letters, the dreams of revival, all that had led to this moment. Each person following her wasn't just there to clear debris, they were there to reclaim their community spirit, to reaffirm their connection to one another. When she arrived, the destruction was stark. A massive tree lay across the street, branches sprawled out like fingers reaching for help. Molly's heart raced at the sight. It was daunting, but it was nothing compared to the strength gathered in this moment. "All right. We need to work together," she shouted, galvanizing everyone. "Spread out, let us check for anyone trapped and clear this path." Their voices intertwined, creating a chorus of encouragement. As they dug into the task, Molly's heart thrummed with energy. She witnessed her neighbors shining in ways she had never seen. Mrs. Jenkins handed out water and snacks, while Mr. Adams directed efforts to lift the trunk, filling the air with a blend of purpose and camaraderie. With one collective heave, they moved the tree, exposing the road. Relief washed over the crowd. But when they paused for breath, a chilling realization gripped Molly: what if someone was still trapped beneath the rubble? Would her courage hold in the face of that fear? "Ben!" she called out, desperation creeping into her voice. "We need to check under the tree." He nodded, and they both moved closer, kneeling beside the trunk. With trembling fingers, they felt the ground beneath. "Hello? Is anyone there?" she shouted, her voice breaking slightly. A faint moan floated back to them. Molly's chest tightened. "Hold on. We're coming." With renewed determination, they rallied more people. They worked in unison, lifting, shifting. Sweat poured down their brows, but they pressed on, driven by something deeper than fatigue. Just as they cleared enough space, a figure emerged, caked in dirt, but alive. The crowd erupted in cheers as a man stumbled forward, supported by two neighbors. "Thank God!" he gasped, bewildered but safe. Molly felt tears prickling her eyes. This was what they had been fighting for, the very essence of community. They gathered around the man who was visibly shaken yet relieved. Just before the moment could settle, more voices came through. "There's more over here," shouted a woman, pointing at a garage buried under timber. We think we heard two people inside. Adrenaline surged anew. We need everyone. Molly called out. Let us help them. Together, they streamed toward the garage, transforming fear into fervor. One by one, they lifted the heavy beams, tossing aside their own struggles, relentless in their pursuit of light and safety. In that instant, Molly realized they were not just saving lives but reigniting the very spirit that connected them all. It wasn't about the festival anymore. It was about unity, about standing tall together when the ground shook beneath them. As twilight descended, they emerged from the wreckage exhausted but victorious, every one of them marked with dirt and sweat. Laughter broke through the solemnity, relief spreading through the group like wildfire. Together, they had defied disaster and came out stronger. Molly looked around at the faces glowing with joy, sweat, and relief. They were a community reborn. A sense of pride washed over her. They had discovered their hidden treasure not in gold, but in each other. Let us keep this spirit alive, she cried. This is just the start. Together, we can do anything. Cheers erupted as the crowd rallied behind her, no longer hesitant but fiery with determination. Molly felt the weight of her journey lift. In the face of adversity, she had found herself, her community, and the very strength that had once felt just out of reach. They were stronger together, and this newfound faith in one another would propel them forward into a brighter future. As they made their way home, Molly's heart swelled with gratitude and love. They would gather again, not just for festivities, but to continue building their future, together. This was their time, their moment, and she was ready to embrace it. Now, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly helps me out. Comment your reactions and feelings about this beautiful ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.